Hello and welcome to I Contain Multitudes, a podcast by me, Jonathan Gabriel. Episode 2. The Past is Never Dead. An exploration of how memory works. I almost died when I was about 10 years old. We were visiting my uncle's family in northern Georgia. I was a curious child and talkative, much more so than I am as an adult. I must have driven my parents absolutely nuts with my chatter. On this particular summer day, I was out biking with my cousin and sister, happily chattering away. The bike I was riding was borrowed, and unlike the ones I was used to, which had handbrakes, this one required backpedaling to stop. Something completely alien to me. This proved to be nearly my undoing. We started down a mid-sized hill not far from my uncle's house. Before I knew it, my bike started accelerating, and my frantic efforts at backpedaling did little to slow me down. My family started calling after me, but it was too late. As I continued to accelerate down the road, the bike shook violently beneath me, as if it might come apart at any moment. I neared a fork in the road and managed to veer down a side street, dodging a car coming up on the other side. I remember feeling an existential terror as I continued to zoom along, thinking, I can't stop. Why can't I stop? I finally came upon a grassy patch near the bottom of the hill, and not wanting to take the chance of encountering another car, and hoping the grass would cushion my fall, I leaned hard to my left, sending my body flying. I landed hard, rolling over several times before coming to a stop, bloody and bruised, but alive. I barely registered it as my family came running up to where I was. I was lucky. My bruises eventually faded, but even now, one of my front teeth is chipped from the accident, a physical reminder of that harrowing day. That day left a physical mark, but the details have blurred with time. Memory can be hazy. I can't remember what my family yelled as I raced down that hill, or even what color the bike was. Let's be honest, memory is an imperfect narrator. It is not, in fact, a perfect recording of events. Research has shown that it can be distorted or even influenced. As psychologist Elizabeth Lofton, an expert in memory research, puts it in an evocative turn of phrase, our representation of the past takes on a living, shifting reality. It is not fixed and immutable, not a place way back there that is preserved in stone, but a living thing that changes shape, expands, shrinks, and expands again, an amoeba-like creature. How is memory constructed anyway? Here's how researchers describe 3 main components of the process. Encoding. This is the stage where your brain takes sensory stimuli and begins to process it. Information comes from all our senses: sight, smell, touch. Notably, the quality of your attention affects how well the memory gets encoded, or if it even gets encoded at all. Other things affecting the strength of the memory encoding include repetition and your emotional state. Storage. Think of it like engraving a design into wood. The brain biochemically etches the memory into itself in what's called an engram, also known as a memory trace. These memory traces can even be silent, meaning the memory is there, but it can't be retrieved by normal means. Interestingly, research shows your brain does not store a memory in one place, but in several. Scientists think different brain regions store different parts of the memory. The hippocampus, among other things, captures spatial context through special types of cells called place cells, where you were when a memory occurred. Another part of the brain, the amygdala, captures emotional information about the event. That would have included my overwhelming fear in the case of the bike incident. Retrieval. This is the remembering stage. But it's not like pulling up a childhood video of yourself and hitting play. Each time you remember, your brain is reconstructing the memory, and the memory is susceptible to alteration. For example, a famous 1978 series of experiments explored the power of suggestion to alter memory. In one experiment, a group of students watched a car going past a stop sign and hitting a pedestrian. Some were then asked a leading question: how fast was the car traveling when it passed the yield sign? In fact, there had been no yield sign there. However, more than half of the participants incorrectly said there was. Researchers call this the misinformation effect. How memories are strengthened or weakened. Memories start as fragile, unstable things. A process known as consolidation helps to convert them into more permanent forms. This often happens during sleep, making that activity vital to memory formation. When this happens, newly formed memories are activated and transferred from short-term, hippocampus, to long-term memory, neocortex, that wrinkly surface layer of the brain. Memories aren't stored in a vacuum. They're filtered through schemas, mental frameworks we build from experience to help us interpret the world. Sound familiar? These frameworks guide what we pay attention to, what we dismiss, and even how we later remember events. How trauma can affect memory. There's also a related process called reconsolidation, which kicks in when you recall a memory. Each time you remember, the memory becomes briefly malleable again, open to being updated by new facts, emotions, or even persuasive suggestions. This is how memories can subtly shift over time. For example, stress or trauma, like what I experienced on that bike ride, or cognitive overload, when we're bombarded by information, produces cortisol, otherwise known as the stress hormone. This actually can impair the function of the hippocampus in the brain, interfering with accurate recall. Epilogue. In all likelihood, I'll never remember exactly what happened on that hill, the color of the bike, the words my family yelled, the depth of the terror I felt. But maybe that's okay. Because memory isn't just a static record of the past, but a guidepost containing lessons for our present and future. Each time I recall that day, I'm not just remembering a scared 10-year-old on a runaway bike. I'm reaffirming how I learned to steer through fear, to fall, bruised and battered, and despite it all, to get back up. Our memories may blur with time, but in the hazy darkness, they still guide us toward meaning. What I'm reading. My friend Nicole Delonzo tells the tale of a recent delicious meal, including some tasty macarons. A happy memory indeed. Bess Auer, a Florida artist whom I first met when she ran the highly successful Florida BlogCon conference for local bloggers and social media marketers, discusses the latest in AI and resurrecting the memories of our loved ones in her latest post. What I'm listening to. A new audiobook of Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, read by the actor Penn Badgley. This famous dystopia of book-burning firemen was one of my favorites in high school, along with The Great Gatsby. Until next time, Jonathan. And thank you for listening to I Contain Multitudes. Subscribe for more at icontainmultitudes.substack.com.